There are similarities. The kid is preoccupied. The kid is very focused on building a self-concept that's going to fix the problem. Very often, when we have social anxiety, we also become preoccupied, obsessed with, for example, being someone, being interesting, being somebody that is acceptable to others. One of the problems with social anxiety is that the coping mode that puts us into this static condition that entrenches our problem is what we call other-directed. It's an other-directed type of coping mode. Folks, we are monitoring the environment. We are monitoring what people think about us rather than what we're thinking about ourselves. This is one of the factors about social anxiety. It is other-directed. In other words, the way we value ourselves is too much invested in the opinions others have of us. And that, of course, is something we have no control over, and it's not a comfortable situation. Making the turn, getting healthier, is going to involve divesting ourselves from our maladjusted coping modes. And these coping modes were put in place by the child, by the youngster. The youngster did not want to be humiliated. Therefore, he sought to be a hero. Or she wanted to be very liked, or wanted to be pretty. Those types of motives were put in place to heal the problem, to help cure the problem. And what happens is that the kid's sense of relationship to the world is being undermined with worry, with self-conceptualizing. Very often you get a kind of a spacey, type of mode of behavior in the child. I speak from my own experience, and I have healed from social anxiety. It is actually, I am always healing from social anxiety. After you've conditioned yourself for 40 years practicing a maladjusted coping mode, folks, we need to begin to practice an adaptive coping mode pretty much for the rest of our life, and we will not be getting those symptoms. So we talked about a core issue. The core issue was defectiveness. I proposed that to you, that there is some sense of inadequacy, some sense of humiliation, some sense of shame, some sense of inferiority, some sense of being not sufficient for others. And that is just an idea. In no way is anyone listening to this tape insufficient. Now, you need to give some consideration to what you've been doing, because you may well have been making some very unflattering inferences about yourself. Not tall enough, not a good conversationalist. I never got the right job. I don't travel much. I don't know that much. Constantly comparing yourself with others. Why? Because you're other-directed. You're other-directed. And we got to cut that out. I'm going to show you how to do it. We're going to talk about how to do it, to realign ourselves. And we're not going to get away from the fact that we had a defectiveness schema. That's a schema, is an impression, a conclusion. It's a mental pattern. It's a conclusion, an idea that we develop from the evidence of our early misfortune when we were youngsters. And folks, of course, when you have social anxiety, it's not only an event that is disturbing. You were exposed to a circumstance. A quick disclosure myself, I grew up with a single mom. My brother was quite critical of me. I was an insecure kid and a very worried kid. I was that kid who rather wrestled with a mental manifestation, a fantasy, rather than wrestle with another kid in which I might lose. So you see that type of investment in fantasy. The worried child is in his or her head. And that is what continues to occur. That is what is continuing to disturb us today. The maladjusted patterns are entrenched, and we need to begin to untie these things. And I did mention about some of the unflattering ideas that we can develop about ourselves. You know, I'm not experienced enough, I don't have enough education, I'm insufficient in some way, and then you're attempting to make up for it. This is what makes you very vulnerable. In other words, you want to look good. You want to be impressive. You seek to be extraordinary, but your fear is being less than average. We need to return to being average. We do not need to be invested in being somebody. We already are that. Any effort to seek nobility when we're already noble is a complex, is our neurosis. We are in a noble and honorable condition. The obsession with seeking honor is exactly that. It is an obsession. It is taking us out of our center and out of the alignment with our true self. Now, if we've been doing this for a lot of years, we could have traveled the wrong road for quite a while, and there may be some difficulties in our world today. Let's just consider that for one moment. Think about, for example, a person who seeks to be honored more from others than he does from himself. He will not honor his own desires. You know, the principle of action that leads us, according to our personality, leads us towards professions and relationships, that leads us, who we are leads us, that sense of divine insufficiency, if you will, a divine discontent carries us, and we seek fulfillment within ourselves. But when we are concerned about how others see us, our dispositions are subordinated. For example, I met a young man who was a very humanistic person. He was a nurse assistant, did very well as a nurse assistant. He had a slight posture and a slight body type, and wanted to be a truck driver. Why? To redeem his honor from his brothers and sisters who would criticize him for what? For his tender, loving, motherly style.